Welcome. In this session, you'll learn how to add a giving page to your meeting's website. This video was recorded on November 15, 2023. This session is a collaboration between Friends General Conference and Friends Fiduciary. Friends General Conference aims to nurture the spiritual vitality of Quakers in North America. Friends Fiduciary is a Quaker nonprofit that focuses on socially responsible investing. My name is Johanna Jackson. My pronouns are she, they. I'm the Communications Associate for Friends General Conference. It's my pleasure today to introduce Mimi Blackwell. Mimi is the Director of Philanthropic Services at Friends Fiduciary. She's been working in Quaker spaces for 20 years. Mimi is a trained mediator, former lawyer, former head of school at Goshen Friends School, and she currently serves on the board of the Lancaster Friends School and the Arch Street Preschool. If you have questions about planned giving services, Mimi is a good person to talk to. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mimi.
Johanna gave me a wonderful description of what I did before I arrived at Friends Fiduciary. And so I just want to let you know what I do now that I've landed there. And I'm turning back admittance to you, Johanna. Great, thanks. So I've been at Friends Fiduciary for 6 years. I am the only person there that works with individuals. As some of you may know, Friends Fiduciary was established in 1878, and of course has morphed along the way, but originally to support Philadelphia Yearly Meeting and then broaden its scope across the country and really encompasses lots of different worship styles as well. But that work really focused around the finances of meetings, monthly meetings, yearly meetings, quarterly meetings. What happened in 2001 was that at the request of actually some Quaker organizations, one of which was FGC, we got going in the planned giving space, really as an administrative support to organizations. And over the years, more than 20 years now, it has also kind of taken on a support of donors who want to support those Quaker organizations. So I have the privilege of working with some donors who would like to direct gifts to their monthly meeting, larger organizations. They might be an alum of a Quaker school or college. I can work with them directly and have those gifts benefit those other organizations. And I also work with organizations ranging in all sorts of sizes, from totally volunteer, which is typically where a monthly meeting will fall on the spectrum, to very large organizations, schools, retirement communities, larger Quaker organizations. So I get to do both. I'm not going to make any biblical references on that, but I do have the joy of working with people, which is very uplifting to see how generous they are of the Quaker organizations they value. Importantly, Friends Fiduciary does not do fundraising for its own budgetary needs. We operate a little differently because of the investment management piece. So we're not, I always joke, I say, if somebody calls me and said, I want to benefit 4 Quaker organizations, my monthly meeting, the school I went to, FGC, and name another one, I'll say, great, we can do that. I don't say, well, what about putting Friends Fiduciary on that list? That would just be wonderful. So that's not what's happening when I interact with donors. I will let you know that what we're talking about today, and when I talk about the support I provide to organizations and to donors, they're not experiencing out-of-pocket expenses. And I think that's really important because a lot of smaller organizations and donors they want to know, like, what's this going to cost me? Let me know exactly what this is going to be. So we'll talk about associated fees, how that works. Because there are some, when you talk about online giving, if any of you are doing it or are peripheral to it within your organization, you're going to know there are fees associated with it, but you're not going to experience those out of pocket. And there's no fee to have Friends Fiduciary support you in the process of acquiring online gifts. So let's fast forward a little bit to how we came to a place where we were going to start supporting organizations in their online giving initiatives. So I get around. I was in Kalamazoo this summer. It was lovely. I was out in Oregon this summer at your lovely gathering. And so I interact with a lot of groups. And what I was hearing was this real barrier to initiate an online giving program, administer an online giving program, the fees, vetting the providers, all of these things. And I was like, well, why isn't there something that kind of creates the framework for groups? And I actually had been on Philadelphia Yearly Meetings website, and they were providing this service to their monthly meetings and quarterly meetings. And so I started to look around, and I looked at New York Yearly, I looked at New England, Baltimore, Pacific Yearly, and nobody was doing it. Illinois, Indiana, nobody. So the idea sprang to mind, like, this is a way we could be supportive. And you might think that's crazy to just say, well, why don't we just start a new program that would be supportive of other organizations, and probably create a little bit more work for us. But that's really our mission and why we were established. If you think back to what I talked about, if you think back to the 2001 inception of the Planned Giving Program, Friends Fiduciary filled a void, filled a need. And so it seemed logical that if we could, that we should look into doing this. So we got busy, and we were able to create a framework. So enough about all that. Let's talk about the framework and what it does. So let's say, yes, Joanna.
I forgot to say one thing before
Yeah.
you get started more. We will end at the top of the hour, and there's time for questions after. So I wanted to mention that for people who have work days.
And if I'm talking too fast, which I can, just let me know. And questions are welcome at any time. Raise your hand, speak up, put it in the chat. Joanna's going to monitor that. So how would, let's use a monthly meeting, for example. I thought I saw some folks from Downingtown, which is not too far from my old stomping grounds. So let's say Downingtown Friends Meeting wants to establish an online giving presence. Or let's say they already have one, but they're not happy with how everything it entails. I get a lot of feedback about different planned giving resources, and so some of the feedback I get is PayPal, and it's always with this kind of face, PayPal, and apparently it's burdensome. It can be expensive, and I will tell you, PayPal really looks like you're moving away from your own website, and so people kind of jump off of that and say, "Oh, is this safe? I don't have a PayPal account," and so that can be a blip in the giving process. So let's say, or let's say your meeting doesn't have anything in place yet for online giving. So what you can do is, if somebody reaches out to me and says, "Hey, Mimi, can Friends Fiduciary help me set up an online giving program for my meeting?" And I say, "Absolutely, we have this program. It's been in existence for about 3 years. And here's what you need to do. You need to," I'm going to share my screen. It normally goes okay, but bear with me. So what you start with is an intake form. It's very easy to use from my perspective, but I created it. So everyone's brains operate differently. But if you just take a look at it, and can everybody see that? Okay, good. So you want to get a contact within your meeting. It's always easier to deal with one or potentially two people on this project, just for continuity of the project. I request an email and a phone number. Usually communication is by email. If your meeting is receiving gifts by check, and most do, then we would need to know how should that be made payable? What do you want that to say? Is it simply the monthly meeting? And where should it go? Where should it be mailed? Is it the physical address of the monthly meeting? Is it care of the current treasurer? Is it to a PO box? And we things got a little tricky during COVID, as we all know, with mail. And that's another reason this program kind of, I feel like, got some legs under it, because it did allow for people to make an online gift versus sending in a check or dropping the check at the meeting house, because those options were getting a little complicated during the pandemic. Should it be to someone's attention? Is your meeting getting enough correspondence that would be a helpful way to delineate it? And then it says, when you receive gifts from the online portal, where do you want that money to go? And that money is electronically transferred to the bank account of your choice. A lot of monthly meetings and organizations choose to have this go into their operating account. You do not need to have, your meeting does not need to have an account at Friends Fiduciary to participate in this program. So you would just indicate PNC Bank, here's my account and routing number, or the meeting's account and routing number. And it will be, and we'll talk about process after this, like how this churns out on a monthly basis, but that would arrive in your bank account just before the middle of the month for the proceeds raised the month before. You can include an image. I gave a generic size. I never get images that size. So we get a little creative. We can do a generic background that identifies the meeting or the organization, or we could, do something a little bit more customized. I'm not a web designer, but I'm really good at matching colors. So it tends to work out okay. And so if somebody says, yes, I'm going to provide it, or they can say no, just make up your own idea. So then the other thing that is not on the intake, but I always discuss with the contact for the organization is there a specific fund or funds that you want to identify as ways that a gift could be further restricted? That's not on this form. I'm thinking of adding it, but it's always easy to handle through a conversation and an email. We'd like these drop downs. And I'm going to show you examples of that as well. So that's how it starts. I then take that information in. I have to say, I was kind of like a one-woman show for a little bit, but we now have some support on this program as it's grown. And so usually I am creating the pages, but there are other members of the team involved in getting the money out the door, making changes and various pieces. So it's not just me at this point, which feels good. So we talked about pictures, fund designations, where the money should be wired, and who is the organization's contact. So basically what I do from here is we work in WordPress for our website at Friends Fiduciary. I create two very simple pages. One is a page that is pretty standard, and another is a page that is an online giving form for your group. And they link together. And you'll see when we get into that how they work together. We use IATS, lowercase I, capital A, capital T, capital S, as the back end on the giving part. We found their fees to be the most economical. It's not the fanciest of platforms, but it did what we needed to do. So we feel like we found a good Quaker match. It was, and it's working well. In fact, Lake Erie yearly meeting uses it to take payment for their annual summer gathering. So people are using it in creative ways. So I always say to people, if it's not doing exactly what you want or what you would like to have happening, talk to me, because we might be able to get creative, and we've had luck doing that before. So let's take a look at some of the pages. Are there any questions? No, nothing in the chat? Okay.
Well, I have like some questions, but I think you're probably going to get to them. So I don't want to spoil anything. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, spoiler alert.
I have a little list of questions on the bottom.
Okay, great. So stop me if I feel like I'm moving past.
Yeah, I was just saying, Mimi, Downingtown does use the services offered by PYM,
Yes.
and I'm here to learn whether we can, do it more directly with our meeting community rather than have them go to another website.
Right. So what because PYM does have their own, they already are established in this type of work. They were on board with us doing this program. They asked that their PYM listed meetings can use our template, but then link to their giving. And I don't know how they're feeling. That was 3-4 years ago now when I was talking with them. I don't know if that's something they're still feeling. I probably get about once every other month that question. And so it's something worth talking about PYM with, and I'd be happy to partner with you and talk about that to see. But I think you could also have some benefit out of the planned giving template, and then you would link your donate button back to PYM. So thank you. That's an excellent question. And let me see why. Here we go. Is everybody seeing Portland Friends Meeting? Okay, great. So this is Portland, Maine, just to clarify. So you'll see up on the top of the navigation, there is a donate button. So we click it. And this is one of those images that didn't work perfectly size-wise. So this is what they got. I actually love their opening page image, and I just seen that. I think they did some work on their website. I think that would be wonderful. That could be replaced here, those candles in kind of the meditative circle. So Portland Friends Meeting, and here's the template. Debit, credit card, or ACH, Give Now button. Nate, that would be where your Give Now would go to the PYM site, absent another strategy. These are some of the customized pieces, who, what, when, where with the check. This email goes directly to an email that they've designated. The meeting is designated. And then what makes me excited about this is that these are pieces that sometimes meetings don't have because they've got to maintain it. And if there are changes, then what? So a distribution from an IRA, how does somebody do that to benefit the meeting? Do they have a donor advised fund? I love the idea of asking people, do you have a donor advised fund? And if so, would you make a grant? That's my grant recommendation to the meeting is your annual gift. That's money that's already out of their pocket in that fund. Lots of people have them. So it's a question worth asking. And donating securities, appreciated securities, so many benefits to that. Ability to make a larger gift, avoidance, legal avoidance of potential capital gain. I don't want it to sound like it's something nefarious going on. And also, what I found recently is people who want to support Quaker organizations are normally aligned in some way with their values. And they also often hold maybe securities that they inherited from a grandparent, and they're no longer value aligned with those holdings. And that's a great way to either green up or check the temperature of your investments and make changes in a really creative way. And a really beneficial way to not only the organization, but to maybe some tax consequences and also feeling better about the assets you hold. And then there's a very simple area with planned giving. And I feel like the strongest benefit to this is it links directly to what is a charitable gift annuity, what is a charitable remainder trust. So people can investigate this on their own at their own time. And that goes back to Friends Fiduciary's website. Let me see if I can. It just says, what are the benefits of a charitable gift annuity? What assets can you give? And the one that is, I think, most helpful for a lot of people is they can investigate this online gift calculator and find out what it might mean for them individually by plugging in some very simple data. And I won't walk you all through that, but people find, I get messages all the time. So, and it's anonymous. I don't know who it is unless they tell me. But people like to say, if I give a gift this year, what would it look like for me? If I give a gift next year, what would it look? So it's a great tool to have. It's not like you're, cramming these or pushing these ideas upon people. You're giving them a space to investigate it. So let's go back. Okay, so let's go back to this button. So right now, if you look at the navigation, it says portlandfriendsmeeting.org donate. That is actually a link to an unpublished webpage on Friends Fiduciary's website on our WordPress. So if anything changes, let's say distributions from IRAs are no longer a viable way to donate to a monthly meeting. That's probably not going to happen, but let's just say, what if? I would remove that component from every organization's page. They wouldn't have to worry about keeping up with that updated legislation or whatever it might be. If there comes along another great way to make a gift to a monthly meeting, I'm going to add it to this piece. So this is something you don't have to maintain. If something does change, let's say the physical address changes of where checks should be mailed, you're going to need to let me know that. I don't keep tabs on that. So, if your email changes, you got to let me know that. So let's talk about what happens if somebody says, absolutely, I want to make a donation today. So give now. This is an embedded form, so they're not leaving, they don't feel like they're leaving the site like they do with PayPal. We have the same picture, so they know I'm still at Portland Friends Meeting. And it's very simple. So they put in a gift amount. Let's say it's $50. All right, let's do 50. And then they have an option. And this is something you can decide as a group, that I'd like to help cover 3%, and this is an average of the credit card fees that are experienced, of credit card processing fees. And they can elect to do that. So let's say they say, yes, I'd like to do that. Their gift amount increases by 3% automatically. Let's say they don't want to do that. They say, you know what, that seems pricey to me on a gift of $1,000. That's a lot more money just to make it by my credit card. I'm going to use my bank account, and it's only going to cost me 26 cents. So what they can do at that point is add the 26 cents to their gift, and they've covered the fees for their gift. Most people, amazingly, are following along with this cue about the automatic deposit, the ACH, or an electronic transfer from their bank account. Others don't want to do that, and so they elect to do the 3%. And it's, I thought at first this might be a little confusing. I'm finding that's not the case. People are paying attention. So two ways. One way to very much minimize the impact. And if they say, let's say they say, no, I'm not doing either of those things, then the gift to the meeting would be $48.50. But nothing out of pocket. It's coming out of the gift amount. So they put in all their information. This typically pops up, and it depends on which browser you're on. I'm addicted to Chrome, and it's not the best for this. But additional donors. So I say, well, Mimi Blackwell's giving this, but so is Clyde Blackwell. He's also participating. So I would put Clyde there as well, who is my dog who just moaned in the background. I hope he didn't share that with you. These are required pieces, so you're going to get this information for thank yous. Another important feature is they can do a one-time or a recurring. We've seen a real uptick in recurring gifts, and that's so meaningful from a budgetary standpoint for meetings to be able to rely upon that. So let's say it's going to be one time, and then they're prompted to, again, a reminder, this is going to have a 3% processing fee if you use your credit card. If I switch to ACH, the input changes of what they need to share. So that is how Portland Friends set up their page. This is very much a generic page except for the image. They don't have any funds they're designating to specifically. It's basically like what I would say, bare bones. The only thing that could make it more bare bones is if I didn't have the picture. So this is basically what everything would look like. Are there any questions about that form or the earlier format that was the giving page? Okay, so this, as I said, is kind of like, yes, Jeff?
Yeah, I didn't see a place on that page where you choose the ACH or the credit card. I see where you cover the amount, but
Right, so if I say one time and I come down, it's right here, credit card, prompts you for card number, expiration date, that funky little
I
code,
see.
CVV.
After you
Now,
make that tick.
right next to it is another bubble, and it changes to ACH right
Gotcha.
here.
Thank you.
Harry? Oh, you're muted.
When you say recurring, hourly, monthly, yearly, what do you mean?
Hourly would be great, right? It's usually a monthly recurring. It can be yearly, quarterly.
Or how do they indicate which they intend?
We would, oh, it's right here, sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. Good, good,
And
good.
you can set your begin date.
Gotcha. I'm with it.
Got it? Okay. Yeah, it's not fancy schmancy, but it gets the job done.
Okay.
That's marketing term. Fancy schmancy is a marketing term. All right. So as I said, this is kind of like what's the most typical looking. So I always say this, and I don't know if anyone's here from Anna Arbor or Lake Erie yearly. I don't see anybody. But let me say this: the folks in Ann Arbor are brainiacs, and they obviously had somebody with a tech background on their stewardship or finance committee, because they took the generic information, they retained the links, but they created a whole new page. So this is what if you hit donate, this is the page. It looks nothing like what I created, but it has all of the pieces. They did not want to include donor advised fund, so they just left it out. If somebody said to me, we have a philosophical opposition to donor advised funds, I could take it out for you. It's not a big deal. I'd recommend keeping it in, but I'm not your meeting. So it's whatever feels right for your meeting. So as you can see, they have the same with the donate button, check, distribution from IRA, securities. Down here, they have donor advised fund, legacy giving. They do have links to Friends Fiduciary. They're very thorough, and they put a caveat that they're not vetted, endorsed, or it feels like one of those fine print things, but they felt moved to put that in there, and that's fine. So let's look though at their donate page, and you'll see the difference. So they just have the generic top, same type of form that we saw with Portland Friends meeting, same language about costs and fees. And here they have a fund choice. And here are their funds. So they have general operating, a voluntary carbon tax fund, congregational sanctuary fund, and East Africa Education Fund. So you can restrict your gift to that meeting. I have at least one donor that donates through this format, and he wanted to donate to general operating and East Africa Education Fund. So I said, well, just put it in general operating and let the treasurer know that $50 is for. And treasurer wrote back and said, I'd prefer that he do 2 separate donations. So we tweaked it and set it up that way for them. just easier for them to follow along where the money was. They didn't have to remember, oh, right, $50 to this other. So any questions about that? Did I see a hand? No? Okay. Joanna, any,
Yes, I'm sorry, Amy, I did have a question.
yeah,
Could you scroll down a little bit more to the learn more about data security there? Is that on all of the templates?
yes,
Okay.
yes, that's something that IATS provides. Would you like me to open it?
I'm following along on my other screen, but yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good. So if any meeting were asked, do you store my credit card number? You just say absolutely not. It's not stored or processed by the meeting or even Friends Fiduciary for that matter.
Correct. We're not processing the credit cards.
Right.
Yeah. If somebody calls and asks me to update it for their recurring, if your credit card expires or they want to change their credit card, they can give that information to me, but it's not stored on our server. It's stored with IATS within their program. Any other questions? Okay, so let me show you. So you've gotten all of these lovely gifts. One question that was really bubbled up during vetting all of this and working through was questions from the treasurer of, well, I'm not getting a report until the middle, beginning to middle of the next month about, so we just sent out about 4 or 5 days ago, the reports for October. And you have to wait for some of this processing to go through, particularly the ACHs take a longer time because of how IATS processes them. Credit cards are more of the moment, but so as a treasurer, I'm guessing it seems like it's mostly treasurers who are charged with thanking and keeping track of these things. So you're the treasurer and you're like, great, we got all these lovely gifts in October, but I don't know about them until November. And that is true. Like if you wanted to be on top of your thank yous, that's going to seem like a delay to your donors. So what you get, when you designate that email contact, they get contemporaneous notice of any gifts and processing of recurring gifts. So I get that email, the designee for the meeting gets that email, and when that came in. You may get fuller information from the report, but you could at least send a quick email. Thank you. So much appreciate your support. You could do a generic. I put language in whatever the meeting wants to say. Thank you for supporting Portland Friends meeting. Your donation will, continue our programs, first day school, whatever it might be. So there could be some quicker thank you, some notification of what's going on. If you're monitoring some particular funding campaign and you want to know where you stand, you could look at those emails and know. I'm going to stop sharing and then share a different screen. But what does the reporting look like? Did this change to a sample monthly report? It says friendly monthly meeting. Okay, great. So I guess I'm just dying for creativity because I thought this was so clever, George and Margaret Fox. But so your donors are George and Margaret Fox. They of course live on Quaker Drive in Community, Indiana. You see their gift date, February 13th. You see how they designated their donation. It's the General Endowment Fund. You see their initial donation. Now the Foxes decided not to do the fee assist. They did not cover the costs associated with their fee, with their gift. So there was a processing fee of $2.25. So the net gift amount distributed to Friendly Monthly Meeting in the month of March, representing the February donations, was $47.75. The only effort the meeting has put into getting that gift, well, one is creating a lovely place that the Foxes are attached to. and that they want to support. So that's not just a little bit of work. That's the big part of gift giving. But from an administrative standpoint, they've really had very little work to do to have this money come in. They didn't take a check to the bank. They had a quick email that said thank you, and then they probably will do another written email. But their email that they receive contemporaneously, meaning the donors as well as the meeting, will show that this is a tax-deductible gift. So if your meeting is fine with that being the thank you, they're covered. They're done. I will say that, and I do have an FAQ document. Are there any questions about the form? Okay. So these go out by email to the person designated as the representative for this program that we have. And they're emailed, and then again, the monthly lump sum, in this case, it would have been $47.75, would have been directly deposited into the bank account designated. It can go into a Friends fiduciary account. It can go anywhere else too. It doesn't matter. If we know, I do believe we have split where money, and I would need to double check this, but I believe we have, let's say one said general operating expenses, and the other one said burial ground fund at Friends Fiduciary. We could split those where they get deposited. Okay. Oh, I will say one thing. This is really a diversion. But I talked about, Ann Arbor Friends did not want to have the donor advised fund on their listing of ways to give. We had investigated last year a partnership with Free Will, which is an online will writing program. We did that the same reason we were doing this, at request of organizations that we were working with. And so we investigated it. Was there an economies of scale piece that Friends Fiduciary could play? We had some good support. We had some really strong feelings about not participating in it. But ultimately, the service was cost prohibitive, even for the groups that had asked us to investigate it. So right now we are not partnering with Free Will. So there is a piece about the quests on there that really just gives language to an individual. So this is how you can add your meeting or Quaker organization into your will. And that's the number one planned gift. That's about 80% of your planned giving will come from people remembering your meeting in their will. Are there any questions on that? I'm looking at my time. I'm not doing too bad. Let's just take a look at the FAQs. They might be hard to follow. Joanna's going to share these PDFs with the registered folks. But I just want to put it up there as a reminder to self to kind of cover some of these pieces. And again, you will get this, no worries. The first question when we started to roll this out was, what are the fees? Again, these are not out of pocket to you, not out of pocket to the donor, but they are affiliated with the gift. If they don't do a fee assist, these are the fees that you're looking at. And you can see they accept most major credit cards. American Express still hanging on to that higher processing fee. So I think you can see where the 3%, it's an average of the credit card fees. And then there's an authorization flat fee of 20 cents. I talk about the ability to offer fee assist. You do not have to offer that if that doesn't feel right. You don't have to do that. We talked about the intake form. I misspelled my email. I always do that. I'm going to need to correct that. Who your contact will be. Adding of specific funds is addressed. Yes, you can do that. How to make the link go live. I've had very few groups have trouble with this. You are literally provided a link from me, and you link that to a button on your website. So if you have a donate button, that link becomes, the link I provide becomes where people land when they hit the donate button. If you put donate in the text on your website, and a lot of groups do the donate navigation button, and then they'll reemphasize at the bottom of their opening web page, want to make a gift, feel moved to support, whatever it might be, or remember, we're having a winter drive for to support a local shelter. Can all be there. We talked a little bit about this. How will I know when a gift has been made? Meaning, how will the meeting know? And that's the contemporaneous email. How do you recognize donor? You can, in a timely manner, we talked about that, based upon the contemporaneous email, or when you receive the monthly report. Here's the timing, and what does the report include? And you've seen a copy of that, but this reinforces what that is. It's between the 10th and the 15th of the following month. So there is a small delay. What if I need to update my organization's giving page? Then you contact me. And I apparently learned how to spell fiduciary when I got down to this paragraph. What if a donor needs to make a change? They would reach out directly to me to make a change. Again, the credit card expired, it was compromised, they want to increase their recurring donation, any of those things they can, and my email is included when they get their receipt for the gift, so they have that contact as well. This talks about how the funds are distributed. It goes into a lot of detail because this was something that was popping up. I got an email that said that a donor made a donation on August 30th by ACH, and it wasn't on my August report when I got it in September. Well, ACHs only get processed once a week through IATS, once or twice a week, unlike credit cards, which are almost quicker than you'd like to think about. So what happens is, because it is then technically cleared in September, they're not seeing that gift until October. And those are when end of the month is when you really want to keep track of a gift that came in by ACH, because that will have some lag time. Oh, and here's why. Oh, yes, I apparently really felt this was very, very important. Any questions? Oh, and this is about the recurring gifts, which I did address. Any questions about that form, which you will have a copy of at the end of the gathering?
Harry has a
yes,
question.
Harry.
Well, I was just going to ask, early on you mentioned that some people have issues with PayPal. This system doesn't accommodate PayPal. I mean,
Sure. If you're happy with PayPal, you can use the generic giving page as having a presence of planned giving on your website and just link to your PayPal. Your donate button would link to your PayPal.
I mean, I'm not saying we are. I just wondered whether in other words, that could be an option.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So I let me go back to I thought that oh, it wasn't I'm about to go off script, and I'll probably be upset with myself for doing so, but let me just share. Bear with me. Are you seeing me navigating? Okay, so North Columbus Friends meeting, they have a phenomenal finance and treasurer, and they really front loaded on this ACH and recurring. So they have the link listed here, but they say set the date as the 20th of the month to minimize the amount of time before North Columbus Friends meeting receives the funds. And they reinforce, to make a change, contact. and then they have some other pieces on it. So they front loaded on that. And I can't remember if I helped them with that language or they just came up with it, but happy to do that either way.
I'm sorry, Mimi, 2 questions.
Yeah.
In this case, I am actually the both assistant treasurer and webmaster for Downingtown Friends meeting. And so my one question goes to your use of WordPress for the actual donate page form.
Yes.
We use Wix as our development platform. Is there any incompatibility with those two?
Not that I've heard.
Okay.
Not that I've heard. Because you're literally creating a link to a page that we host, but
Okay,
it's not
so
published.
In this case of North Columbus Friends meeting, the donor would click that link that they've provided.
Yep.
And would it feel like they've navigated? Okay, so they've navigated to friendsfiduciary.org. That's not something we saw on the prior example.
Yeah, I think that they identified that differently because within their linking. And I will show you one other. I'm trying to
That's a
think of
technical question. I don't know the answer. We don't need to get bogged down there. Then the other question I had was, in connection with receiving gifts in this manner, are there any federal reporting triggered that wouldn't otherwise be triggered if every check just went to a PO box? Is Friends Fiduciary or IATS reporting receipts on a federal form of some sort?
No, but we are registered as a solicitor and the ability to accept gift in different states. So that's something that comes under our umbrella. It's coming through to us. If you know what I mean. Like, so meetings used to not have much reach beyond, their 30-mile or 2-mile radius. But now with Zoom, people are coming in and worshiping virtually from all over the place. So you might have somebody coming to worship at the Downingtown meeting for worship on Sunday, and they're in Omaha. So that you would be reaching and getting donations from somebody far away. And so that's going to fall under our umbrella as registered to solicit. But no, we're not reporting because this is an in and out for us. We're not reporting them as donations to us, but you as a meeting, you would, report them as a donation or a revenue. But
sure. The only reason I ask is if all of this were coming in using like Venmo, for example,
right?
I believe Venmo would then compile a report of receipts to our meeting and send it to the IRS if it was over a certain threshold. So I just was curious. This does not have the same treatment, right?
No. The only thing I've seen on because we're also a nonprofit, and I think that's a distinction, that we're qualified to take charitable gifts.
Okay.
So I think that's a difference between, well, there are a lot of differences between Friends Fiduciary and Venmo, but that is an important difference to keep in mind, that we're doing this work also as a nonprofit.
And IATS is not reporting this kind of thing either.
I haven't seen anything sent to us that said we've made this report on behalf of the donations. I can double check that for you. I haven't seen it. So I'm just a quick kind of summary. This is really designed to take pressure off of the monthly meeting. It's designed to take pressure off the all-volunteer organization. It's designed simply as a service and a support to fellow Quaker organizations. We are, in fact, when we started this program, one of the accountants said, why does anybody let Mimi come up with ideas that makes us do more work every month? But it's what we do, right? It's why we were established, and it's aligned with our mission to support our fellow Quaker organizations. So they stopped, they've just become accustomed to me adding things to their work list. We also find, and this isn't always the case because there are some meetings that date well before the inception of Friends Fiduciary, but there's some that don't. And there are some organizations, I've pulled up Friends Center for Racial Justice, and I forget why I pulled this up. Oh, I know why I did pull this up. Oh, no, it didn't work the way I want. It didn't work the way we thought it was. We tried to change their icon. And it was working for a while. So it was coming up with like our little blue Friends Fiduciary dot that you square up there. But I think we were able to remove that. So you do see friendsfiduciary.org on theirs. And I don't know what their platform is. But Nate, we could get into that a little deeper and get some support on that. IATS is good with their support as well. So getting back to the fact that, Friends Fiduciary has been in existence for quite a while, maybe not as long as all meetings, but it has a weight to it that people feel secure in trusting Friends Fiduciary with something like this, with something that they're giving personal information, their money is being transferred. There's just a comfort. Not to say we work with every Quaker organization or every monthly meeting. That would be fantastic. It's not true. But there is this kind of brand association with Friends Fiduciary that this is this is a predictable, safe, good way to do this work. And it might just be the tipping point for some of your donors to jump in and make an online gift when they see that partnership. It's not a guarantee. I just raise it as we like to say at Friends Fiduciary, a value add. But that's and maybe it would inspire the idea with putting these different ways to make gifts is simply to say this monthly meeting can accept this type of gift. We are equipped to do this. I will say when a group gets their first charitable gift annuity inquiry, I oftentimes get a phone call and says, oh my goodness, they actually read and want to do a charitable gift annuity. Now what? And I say, don't worry, you've got this. I've had groups just say, can we just give you the donor's phone number and you just work them through this? Because volunteer groups typically, and a lot of groups that have development offices, they just don't see those types of gifts as frequently. And it's like reinventing the wheel. I see them all the time. And so helpful, absolutely able to help and joyfully would help you have that gift come in and support your meeting.